you, Madam Speaker. And I rise to make my contribution to this legislation, which I say from the beginning that I strongly support. Madam Speaker, that was a great contribution from the would-be Leader of the Opposition, who's trying to disable himself over there, and you can see there's a bit of a fracture in that side of the House, Madam Speaker, because ultimately the would-be opposition leader spoke. So, Madam Speaker, we can see where the cracks are, and it's not on this side, Madam Speaker. There is a canyon on that side over there, and it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next few months, Madam Speaker, to see who the real leader is over there. And we've heard this great conversation about things that the spoke about. But, Madam Speaker, I just want to raise a few things. I think the member for Gorges spoke about us being allergic to public scrutiny, and he admitted that his previous government made a mistake and they scrapped the scrutiny committee. And he's trying to rewrite history and saying how high and mighty they are, but in reality, Madam Speaker, they scrapped the scrutiny committee. They withdrew it. They cut it out because they didn't want to face the scrutiny. So when you talk about being allergic to scrutiny, Madam Speaker, I think it's pretty clear who that is. And that's probably why they're back down to 4, because unlike them on that side, Madam Speaker, we are up for public scrutiny, and we installed the scrutiny committee to be able to scrutinise legislation. And that's what it's for. Madam Speaker, the member for Gorges said, no big bits of legislation are going through that. Well, unfortunately, I think the Territory Coordinator just went through that whole process, Madam Speaker. So clearly he has got his facts wrong and he's very unclear. Madam Speaker, he spoke about the Environment Minister over here. Thank God he's going to turn the Territory around. Madam Speaker, the member for Gorges spoke about decisions made over the last decade which put us in the worst performing economy for the last 5 years. And he spoke about jobs. Well, Madam Speaker, we can clearly that hasn't worked, because those on that side had their opportunity. They had 8 years and the Territory's gone backwards, literally gone backwards. The crime has gone through the roof. Our economy has gone backwards. People are leaving the Territory in droves because of the crime, because there are no jobs. We had the worst performing economy. Clearly, we're here to clean up that mess, and that's what the Environment Minister is doing. That's what we on this side are doing about making the Territory a better place to live. Making the Territory a better place to live, because it is worth fighting for, Madam Speaker. I was born here, and lots of people in this chamber were born here, and I want to see the Territory a place it used to be before the Labor government got their mitts on the control levers and got their mitts onto the economy and wrecked it. Absolutely wrecked it. They took everything they possibly could out of the economy and left it to have nothing, left it on life support, Madam Speaker. And thank God that the Territorians on August last year turned that around and gave the Territory a fighting chance. Because, Madam Speaker, under the previous government, it did not have a fighting chance. Madam Speaker, the member for Gorges mentioned that he said, we've just sprung this on the community. We've sprung it on. Well, Madam Speaker, we've followed due process. We've followed the process that has been followed in this chamber for decades, for years and years and years, Madam Speaker. We've done what's meant to be done. Unlike the previous government, who cut corners left, right and centre and put us in a world of hurt in the economy, the facts speak for themselves, Madam Speaker. And one fact, Madam Speaker, that we can't forget is the debt situation, which went from about 1.8 to $11 billion in 8 years, Madam Speaker. $11 billion, because this Labor government failed to read the tea leaves and put the economy moving forward. And the member for Gorges spoke about this great environment and all these things that we've got in the Territory. He's correct, Madam Speaker. We've got a great place, and we will need to make sure that it's here and available for Territorians, because there's no point in having a great environment if you can't afford to live here, if you can't afford to send your kids to school, you can't afford to go and buy food, Madam Speaker. And that's what about. We've got to get the balance right, Madam Speaker, and that's what the member for Brayling is doing here. He's getting the balance right. Madam Speaker, the member for Gorges went on a lot about an absolute erosion of this review. Well, Madam Speaker, he did mention very quickly there that there is judicial review, but that's only mentioned once, Madam Speaker, because he knows, Madam Speaker, that that's what's still available. If you've got a problem and you've got an aggrieved decision, you go to the courts. You go through judicial review, Madam Speaker. So that is going to be there, and it's there. So if you think that you're aggrieved or you've got a decision which is upsetting you or something wrong, you take it to the court. Just like any other civil matter, Madam Speaker, if you have a dispute with someone, or a contract dispute or a commercial dispute, you take it to the court. If you break the law, you go to the court, Madam Speaker. So talking about an absolute erosion, well, the judicial review is there and it's available for anyone who wants to do it. And I'm not sure if he did that on purpose and just put that through just a little bit, just so he wasn't misleading Parliament. Well, Madam Speaker, the judicial review is there, it's ready to go. Madam, he spoke about, we're not going down the path of the previous government, Madam Speaker. Well, let me tell you, Madam Speaker, the previous government created uncertainty, destroyed the economy and delayed projects. Delayed projects, destroyed the economy and created uncertainty, Madam Speaker. And uncertainty, Madam Speaker, in private enterprise is a crucial part, Madam Speaker. Why would people invest in the territory when it's uncertain? They don't know what's going to happen. They don't know if you're going to get your approval, then you're going to get dragged through merits review. And remember, Madam Speaker, a merits review is an opportunity to review the decision. That decision is made by the Minister based on all sorts of evidence, and that decision should be a final, should be approved, means approved, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the member for Gorge also spoke about environmental plans and did mention they can be called in. He said, oh, they're going to be taken away and no one's going to review it. Well, he is right, Madam Speaker. If the EPA wants to call in a plan, it can. It's the body that manages that and it's there to do its job, and that's still there, Madam Speaker. The EPA can call in those plans anytime it sees fit. So, Madam Speaker, what we're doing on this side is making sure that we're giving industry certainty. Madam Speaker, as the Minister for Agriculture, Mines and Energy, I've seen projects and decisions across all three of my portfolios that are subject to third-party merits review. In the Territory, a final decision should be a final decision. Once all appropriate assessments and approval process have been completed, approval should mean approval. This is critical in providing industry with regulation certainty they need to invest in our jurisdiction. Madam Speaker, unfortunately the minerals don't just stop at the border, they spread right across Australia, and investors from Australia and overseas want certainty. And we need to make sure that we give those investors the certainty to invest in the Northern Territory, Madam Speaker, because what happens when you invest in the Territory? You get jobs, you get population, you get services. That's what we need, Madam Speaker. We need our own source revenue. Remember, mining and onshore gas gives us that, Madam Speaker. We don't have to rely upon the government, the federal government, unlike the Labor government who just seem to spend like drunken sailors because they put us in $11 billion worth of debt. I think I said earlier, $1 billion a year they overspend. $1 billion. So, Madam Speaker, it's
Member
about...
for Nelson, could you just pause for a minute?
Yes, certainly.
In the gallery we have Year 5-6 students from Menunda Terrace Primary School accompanied by their teachers. Welcome to Parliament House on behalf of honourable members. Please continue, Member for Nelson.
Madam Speaker, $1 billion just rolls off the tongue, Madam Speaker, but $1 billion is $1,000 million. $1,000 million. That's a lot of zeros, Madam Speaker. But that's how much the previous government overspent every year for 8 years. $1,000 million. And perhaps probably a little bit more if you actually did the maths. So it goes back to that certainty, Madam Speaker. We need to rebuild the economy. We need to make the Territory a safe place to live, and of course we need to make sure that our lifestyle is ready to go. Madam Speaker, talking about certainty, that was one of the critical factors when we got our multi-billion-dollar IMPEX investment to the Territory. So we need to give industry the certainty to invest. Given that the $11 billion debt the Territorians have because of the previous Labor government, we sorely are in need of large-scale private investment to rebuild our economy. Madam Speaker, the budget has been blown. We cannot afford to just keep spending like the drunken sailors. We need private enterprise to have confidence and invest in the Territory. We need that private investment. We will not allow millions of dollars to invest in revenues be jeopardised by these minority groups, these anti-investment people, these environmental activists. We need to make sure that money is invested into the Territory. It is easy to be a single-issue interest group when you never really have to concern yourself with how the services and amenities of Territorians, such as hospitals, schools and the police, get funded, Madam Speaker. Because, Madam Speaker, we know that the mining industry and the gas industry fund the hospitals. They fund the education system. They fund the police officers, Madam Speaker. These things don't just fund themselves. The government don't make money, Madam Speaker. The government spend money. So we need to make sure that we get more money in that we throw out. And that's what this Labor government failed to do. They put us in $11 billion worth of debt. So we need to make sure that we get that confidence, because we want to be able to fund our health system. We want to be able to fund our education system. We want to be able to fund our police, because we need to keep the community safe and we need to keep them healthy. Madam Speaker, without the benefits of agricultural, mining and gas projects that third-party merit review has been weaponised to stop, we would not be able to provide these critical services and amenities to Territorians, because it's about the funding. Being completely reliant on the Commonwealth for the Territory's annual budget is not an acceptable situation if we wish to maintain our lifestyle. Therefore, we must remove the threat to economic development presented by a lawfare that is designed to delay, discourage and disvalue investment. Madam Speaker, we need private investment into the Territory. That's a fact. Madam Speaker, presenting the Middle Arm Sustainable Development Precinct as nothing more than a toxic gas hub is a clear example of the dishonest tactics used by activist groups and they employ. At present, third parties' merit review of decisions under the Petroleum, Planning and Water Acts can be appealed to the NT Civil Administrative Tribunal, NTCAT for short. Third-party interests only need to pay an administrative fee of less than $500 to lodge an appeal. These appeals then cost the government and industry proponents thousands of dollars to defend and delay projects development for months, representing untold costs and opportunities to Territorians, Madam Speaker. Remember, Madam Speaker, when you put a project on delay for months or years, people in that region don't reap the benefits. They don't get the jobs, they don't get the services, Madam Speaker. And these actions tarnish the reputation of a Territory as a premier place to do business. Remember, we need investment here. What we don't want, Madam Speaker, is things like third-party merit review driving away dollars we need to kickstart our failing economy, because that's what the Labor government did, Madam Speaker. We put us last for 5 years in a row. Ironically, most of the decisions subject to third parties' merit review have not been for the gas and mining projects that attract the attention of these environmental groups. Instead, they have been for large-scale agricultural and horticultural projects, such as that proposed at Singleton stations, which are designed to provide fresh produce to local and interstate markets. So we're talking about food producers, Madam Speaker. We're talking about businesses that produce food which will feed Territorians, which will feed Australians. Apparently there is no primary industry which is acceptable to these interest groups. They just want to stop it all. Since 2020, there have been 18 third-party merit review of decisions made by the Independent Controller of Water under the Water Act 1992 alone, Madam Speaker. Most of these decisions have been upheld, demonstrating the lack of merit associated with the appeals and showing them for the delay tactic they are. Rather than rein in these groups, Labor allowed them to try and sandbag major projects across the Territory, including the Larrimah Agricultural Precinct and Arafura Resources Nolan project. We need investment, Madam Speaker. We need certainty. These groups wish to provide Territorians of unique jobs which sustain our Territory's unique lifestyle. Madam Speaker, there's no point in having a great lifestyle if you can't afford to live it. For example, the Singleton Station development is estimated to be worth $110 million to the economy and provide over 1,000 seasonal jobs. Madam Speaker, the member for Gorgia spoke about jobs, jobs, jobs. Well, there you go, Madam Speaker, 1,000 seasonal jobs and $110 million to our economy. Madam Speaker, that is true investment and true growth, which unfortunately over the last 18 years, because of the Labor government, the Territory has failed to be able to benefit and failed to be able to take advantage of. The Nolan mining project has an estimated capital expenditure of roughly $1.7 billion. That's a lot of zeros. And will provide millions in royalties to the Territory and around 1,000 jobs between construction and operation. So, Madam Speaker, jobs, investment, growth, regional growth, strengthening the economy, providing certainty. The Jarvis Copper Project, the water extraction licence decision for which was subject to third-party merits review, has a capital expenditure of roughly $300 million and again will provide millions in royalties and hundreds of jobs. The licence decision was of course upheld after delaying the project for months following the normal pattern of such matters. Madam Speaker, of course Beetaloo has been a primary target of third-party merits activism. And again, Madam Speaker, if you're an activist in the Territory, you're not welcome here. The Beetaloo, as per the hydraulic fracturing or Pepper inquiry that environmental groups love to cite, has estimated 6,000 jobs and $17 billion in revenue over the next 20 years, Madam Speaker. Can you imagine what that would mean to Territorian households and businesses? Can you imagine the families, Madam Speaker, who can rely upon the gas and mining industry to pay their wages, to pay their mortgage, to buy food, to look after their families, to pay for the education? Madam Speaker, we know members of this chamber have made money out of the gas industry. Madam Speaker, that's what the gas industry does. That's what the mining industry does. It provides Territorians with jobs. It doesn't matter if you're a member of Parliament, it doesn't matter if you're a hairdresser, if you're a mechanic, it provides you work. You can be a farmer, you can be a ringer, Madam Speaker. That's what these industries do. Imagine how many more frontline staff could be employed at our hospitals, our emergency and law and order research, law and order, and environment services, and our police and our education. How many more teachers? How much better education system could be, Madam Speaker, with this money that will be provided by these jobs? Imagine what the development of the Beetaloo would do to benefit the lives of regional and remote Territorians living in Katherine, the Daly Waters region. The steps that our government are taking today to remove third-party merit review will help unlock the generational investment that will benefit the lives of our children and provide a bright and enjoyable future for all Territorians. Madam Speaker, as the Mining and Agriculture and Energy Minister, I support the repeal of the third-party merit review. Thank you.